Well, the fact of the matter is, in sales, we're just going to hear that no word, and we're going to hear it a lot. And we have to understand that that no is not to us, the person. It's to our product or service.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm always excited because I love sharing value. I love learning from these experts that we bring on the show, and I just love connecting with you. So speaking about connecting, I want to give a big shout out this week to a couple friends from LinkedIn. Mike, thank you so much for connecting with me. I'm excited to work with you. Also, Steve, thank you again for connecting. I love your response, and I look forward to connecting with you as well. For those who'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn as Donald C. Kelly. You can also find me on Twitter, Donald C. Kelly, and you can also join our private Facebook group. It's called the Sales Evangelizers, and you can find that on Facebook. Again, it's the Sales Evangelizers. I made a little comment a couple weeks ago, but we're still launching our blog, and we're getting excited for that. So if anyone desires to learn more about that, you'd like to be a guest blogger on our blog, go ahead and drop me an email, donald@thesalesevangelist.com. That's donald@thesalesevangelist.com. I look forward to hearing from you. This is going to be awesome. But today on our show, we have a great guest. Her name is Angel. She was a proponent in helping me to get training when I first started off early on in my selling career. And we're going to discuss today the idea of overcoming rejection. It's a concept that a lot of salespeople have a challenge with. We spoke about it in the Sales Evangelizers. It has a really good discussion. I'll link back to that discussion in this episode in our show notes. It will be episode number 134. Again, that'll be TSE episode 134. And I'll link back to that discussion in our Sales Evangelizers group. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into our discussion today with Angel and have her introduce herself. Welcome to the show, Angel.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you having me, Donald.
Well, I'm so excited. I learned a lot from you over the years, and I feel that you would be a great guest for this topic, considering that you did help me with this at one point. And I feel that my audience would definitely love to learn from you and could benefit a lot. But before we dive into all the great stuff and learn more about you, Angel, why don't you tell us about your coolest sales experience when you were the customer?
When I was a customer, boy, I could tell you a lot of terrible sales experiences. I think the coolest thing that ever happened was it was my birthday dinner at Charleston Grill in Charleston, South Carolina. My husband took me up there, and they just went above everything I ever imagined. They had a wine tasting at our table. They gave us excellent service, delicious food. It was elk. I'll never forget I had elk for the first time. If you've never had that, oh my gosh, you have to try elk. It's like filet mignon, but 10 times better. And anyway, at the end of the night, I couldn't eat anymore, obviously. And they brought just a little tray of chocolate with my name, happy birthday, with sparklers. And then to top everything off, after we paid the bill, which we never paid for any of the wine tasting, that was all on the house. The dessert was on the house. And they said, oh, one more thing. And they brought us a little basket of muffins for the morning.
What?
Yep. I'm telling you, it was over the top. I was like, this place is definitely 5-star, A+ rated. I felt so special. And I mean, I just always tell people about that experience because they went not just service satisfactory or even more than, they just went over the top.
Wow. I need to put that information in our show notes and go take a visit. This is in Charleston?
Yeah.
Cool.
Keep going back every couple of years. It's gorgeous there. That's where we went on our honeymoon. So
that is awesome. Well, speaking about you, Angel, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do?
Well, what I do is I work with business owners and VPs of sales or CEOs that are just frustrated their teams aren't making their objectives and meeting company goals. They're concerned their closing ratios aren't aren't high enough. They're not closing accounts, and then competitors are getting in on those same accounts before they get a chance to close the deal. And they're just disappointed. They may have hired the wrong person. They think they hired Superman salesperson and they got Clark Kent on Monday.
That is awesome description. I love that. And so you mainly work with a lot of companies. Doesn't matter a certain size or?
No, I mean, our sweet spot is companies that have at least 5+ salespeople that are willing to invest in their salespeople. Unfortunately, a lot of the salespeople don't invest enough on themselves, but they like their bosses to spend money on them. So, training and coaching is a factor with that. So
that's so true. I totally understand that. And as an option, we've provided this means as having this podcast, and this is why I wanted to have you on. I remember when I first started working for a software company, Angel and her company came in and gave us some training, and that's where I first met her. And it was above and beyond, and I really enjoyed that. And I feel that, especially with rejection, I had this in our Facebook. I have a private Facebook group called the Sales Evangelisters, and last week I asked a question for, what's your best practice of overcoming the fear of rejection? It's something that we all face. Now, why is that fear of rejection such a major challenge for sellers, Angel?
Well, the fact of the matter is, in sales, we're just going to hear that no word, and we're going to hear it a lot. And we have to understand that no is not to us, the person. It's to our product or service. And it's not necessarily that they're saying no. They might be saying not now. They might mean a lot of different things when they say no. They might mean I'm just busy today and I don't have time to hear this. Or I don't have any money right now. We don't have budget. So you have to be able to take that no and just move on. And that's what really separates the average salesperson from being the best salesperson.
I guess kind of wraps into this idea, in your experience training salespeople, how has this been a stumbling block for many of these sellers?
Well, many salespeople, they just can't handle the fact that they're going to get adversity, and their persistence, it just goes away. They stop doing the behaviors that they need to do to be successful. So one of the things we try to do is help them train their mind to see things in a different way and how to stay positive and move on to the next call or the next appointment. If not, they're allowing those no's to paralyze them into not performing the activities like making the next phone call or visiting the next account and just getting in front of their prospects. They start spending their day hunched over the computer, over preparing, as opposed to actually getting out there and doing something.
Hold on, so you can over prepare for a call?
Oh yeah. And the worst thing is when you think you know a lot and then you ask the question and the prospect says, "Oh yeah, that's old news," or "That website hasn't been updated in 5 years," and it's just not pertinent information anymore. And now you're like, "Oh, now what am I going to say?"
So your thought on that is to just dive in.
Just dive in. I mean, people are human, and the human nature is what is going to make us better salespeople, understanding human interaction.
So the magic question now, Angel, regarding the overcoming this fear of rejection, tell us, how can one really do that? You kind of hint on it a bit ago about understanding that and not rejecting you as the seller, that may be rejecting your company or product. Can you go a little bit deeper in that and help us understand, like maybe a step-by-step or a better understanding of the principle?
Yeah, I think for me, before I uncovered this wonderful information, I remember just having to take a break after a particularly bad call. And sometimes my break would be the rest of the afternoon off. So that's not going to work well. And then I learned as I progressed in maturity that I got to go eat positive food every day. I have to go train my mind I have to learn about this idea of rejection and how it can affect me. And it really starts in our childhood. How do we take those no's as a kid, you know? And, well, one of the things that I learned in the training that I got at Sandler was there's something called identity role, or IR theory.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, it's not new. Originally, identity versus role confusion was developed by a psychologist named Erik Erikson back in the 50s. And he talked about 8 stages of identity versus role confusion at different intervals in your life. What David Sandler did was he proposed that parts of this theory apply directly to us in sales. He actually used the parent-adult-child philosophy from Thomas Harris's book, I'm Okay, You're Okay, which was written back in the 60s. And that was the platform for transactional analysis. What it all boils down to is the attitudes and beliefs of the salesperson are an integral component in their success. So what happens is I stands for identity and R stands for role. And your identity is what makes you you, your uniqueness, your self-esteem, how you view life, your self-image, your self-awareness, the self-talk, the tapes that are playing in your head. And we know that identity needs to stay somewhat strong for us to be effective. And the other part is the role aspect. Well, roles change. You could one day have one job, another day have another job. Sometimes you're in the dad role, or I'm in the mom role, or I'm in the daughter role, or I'm in the wife role. I could be in the salesperson role. I could be in a golfer role, whatever your hobbies are. So you perform your roles in a different way depending on your circumstances, the situation maybe, or even how you feel that day physically. So the bottom line is your performance in your roles is changing. So one day I'm like supermom. I'm helping, I'm nurturing, I'm loving on my kids. The next day I'm scream machine. You know, go pick up your room. Don't I have to tell you that over and over again?
This explains a lot about my mom now.
Yeah, she's just fluctuating in her role. And does that mean I'm not a good mom or I'm not a good person? No. Does it mean I'm not a 10? No. I just need to make an adjustment and do better next time. So that's kind of just the basics of IR theory.
So then now when someone rejects me in the role of a seller, they're not rejecting Donald.
Exactly.
They're just rejecting, could be the sales guy. And I mean, but how does one start applying this? Is it just multiple practicing over and over again, or what would you say?
It all really has to do with getting your head in the right place. Sure, you're going to probably get better, but I can tell you that if you don't get this, you're probably going to go into what we call the comfort zone, and you're just going to start making excuses for how you perform in your role to either compensate to hold yourself at a higher level in your identity. For example, I had a salesperson once, and I rode with him in the field, and I never saw him as a top of the board sales leader. But when I rode with him, I saw that he was really doing a great job with the customers. And I got in the car with him later and I said, hey, how come you're not at the top of the leaderboard? You really know how to do the fact finding and you ask the right questions, you get good rapport, you actually know how to close and recommend well. And he turned and said something to me that blew my mind. He said, I don't want to be at the top because then you guys will expect that from me every time.
Oh, no.
And I saw something that I couldn't identify with that. because I feel really strong in my identity role, in my role as a salesperson. But what he was saying was, I'm going to protect myself, and I'm going to be what we call an at-leaster, somebody that hangs out in that 5 to 7.5 zone, that never breaks 100 grand, that never gets an A, that always is happy with the B, that kind of person.
Mm.
So that could be dangerous because you're never going to see your true, what could I really do if I put my mind to setting this goal and actually attaining it and working on this?
Now, let's flip that a little bit. Have you ever have any experience where you saw a seller apply this and just had a night and day difference, just a big turnaround?
Well, for myself, I learned from really good salespeople. And the way I learn is I learned through listening and watching. So that's either reading a book, CDs, webinars, seminars, or even just riding with somebody out in the field that I think is a really good salesperson. And some of the ways that I found were salespeople that are good reward themselves. And how do they do that? Hey, I used to do it by saying, as soon as I make 2 calls, I'm going to go have a frozen yogurt. I'm going to sit and read my book under the tree, or whatever little thing, just to give myself a little more energy to go to the next part of my day. It's not rocket science.
I like that. The idea of rewarding yourself, giving yourself a little bit of I don't know, this is my little gift for myself. But it ties right precisely with what you said earlier, that sometimes sellers may take that the wrong way when they do get the rejection and then lock up and say, well, I'm going to Starbucks for the rest of the day. I need to get my comfort food. I need to build myself back up. So, but that's awesome. Great point with that. And for me,
there's a danger there with the taking it too literally. And that means they're starting to create tapes in their mind of negativity with their own voice, using their own voice to make the tapes, which is the worst thing ever. It's bad enough we have maybe some negative tapes playing from our parents or a teacher or even a boss that was just telling us all the negative and never actually showing us how to do it better. But when we start taking ourselves down, we're using our own voice, and that's really dangerous in sales.
Yes, so true. Here's another thought, Angel, just as a question. What would you say to skeptics who say you have to take it personal when you get rejection? Because for me, I've had a discussion with individuals that say, if I get rejected, it's my fault and I need to take it like that because that's the only way I'm going to learn, and I'm going to go and analyze it and become better at the next time. What would you say to these skeptics, or explain your point to them?
Well, at the beginning, if you're new in sales and you're learning sales, you're in a different place. You have to get some experience out there where you do go back and review what you did and see what you can do better next time. But I don't ever call it taking it personal. I would say I'm still in the learning stage, because if you get a lesson at the end of a negative sales call, and I don't think any sales calls are negative. If I get a lesson, that just turned it into the positive. So I think you have to be careful when somebody says, yeah, you should take it on the chin or whatever like that. I mean, taking it personal will kill you in sales. It's just like saying I'm going to eat junk food and put it in my head. What you want to do is say, what lesson did I learn from that call? What should I try differently next time so that isn't the reaction I get? And some people are just jerks, let's face it.
I may know 1 or 2 of those guys. Now, I want to make sure I respect your time. We have a little bit further to go, Angel, and I have a few more questions. Here's another one that I thought about. Does it take a while to get that level of confidence? Or is this something that someone listening to this podcast today can say, you know what, I'm going to try this tomorrow and see if it, and then start seeing success with it? Or is it going to take a couple months to build up to the point where I can let this run off my back and realize that they're not rejecting Donald or Mary or Sue. They're rejecting Johnson and Johnson Company?
Well, if you don't have a hard time thinking you're an identity 10, then it's going to be quicker. If you're a person that always feels like they look at the negative side, it's going to be longer. So, I mean, I've literally had people make breakthroughs in one class, and just telling them that it's okay to hear no was such a unique concept to them that the next week they were already having success because they said, oh, it's just a no. Let me see. That just means not now, or that means he was having a bad day, or that means I'll try again in a month. And it changed everything. So it's up to the individual. How quickly do they want to accept they're going to hear no and just move on?
Very interesting on that one too, because I feel personally as well that it when it comes to sales or it comes to anything else in life, it's the individual. Inside, you have to make the decision. You have to make a decision to say, yes, I'm going to do this. Whether it's running a marathon or whatever, you can train all you want and you can learn all the skills, but unless you start having that internal discussion to say I can do this or have that internal belief or internal concept, then nothing will happen. So I'm glad you explained it like that, because it just resonated well with my thought right there. So that's great. Awesome. Now let's go in a little bit further with the identity and overcoming these challenges. If you were to give one piece of advice to a listener today who's listening to this show and who is having a really tough time with just overcoming these overcoming this fear of rejection. I mean, pretend you're talking to them. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to make a list of every negative thought that is in their head and put it on a sheet of paper. And hopefully it's not going to be too long. And then I would tell them to take that piece of paper, rip it up into little pieces, light it on fire, and bury it. And then now we can start. And then from there, I would tell them when you go out today to remember you're a 10, that when you were born, somebody was ecstatic about you, was so happy, and you made somebody's world. You changed somebody's world on your birthday, and you're awesome. And you're in sales, and sales is fun. Sales is the only job you can give yourself a raise every day, for goodness sakes. I mean, if you're on commission sales. So enjoy what you do and go out and have fun with it and just make big money and don't let anybody pull your identity down.
Love it. Love it. Now, just to go back and tie to you, Angel, just maybe you could tell us a little bit more about yourself. What are some of the current projects you're working on right now?
Well, one of the things I'm working on right now is creating videos. I'm really getting my website changed over from a coaching company to a training speaking company. And so we're making some videos and some webinars right now as we speak with some role plays, which is something that I feel really passionate about, because a lot of times a sales manager will tell you to go do this and go do that, but you don't know what it looks like. And I think it would be great for salespeople to be able to watch it and hear it. How does that sound? What can I listen to? You know, let me hear a role play. You know, how does that going to look when I do it? And it gives them more confidence.
Is this something, how far out is this project to being completed?
Just a couple of months, actually. We have we're creating the studio setting right now because I really want to do the video first. I mean, the audio is really simple once we have the video done. But it's only a couple of months away. So we already have same team selling and same team training set aside for our company. So that's just brand new within the last week.
Sweet. Well, when you get them all done, let us know. We'll definitely share this with listeners who would love to connect with you and learn more about that stuff.
Can't wait.
Awesome. Now, Angel, if we want to get in touch with you and stay in connection and and become friends for life, how would we go about doing that?
Well, right now you can do it at angeldenker at gmail.com, which will obviously that'll all be changing, but I'll have it forwarded. And then my phone number is 954-675-3790.
Awesome. We'll put this information in our show notes. So if there's anyone want to get in touch with you or to learn more about some of these videos, some of these trainings, and how to get access to them, we'll put that there as well. But Angel, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show, for giving us some great advice. I know this definitely helped me, and I know it will definitely help others. So thank you again for your time.
Thanks so much for having me, Donald. Appreciate it.
Another dose of greatness. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, Angel brought some great information today, and it's principles that you can take and apply. As you apply them, I know you'll see a difference. I've seen a difference by applying them, and it's helped me with my fear of rejection that I had at one point. Now I'm just like, what the heck? Who cares? The main thing to remember is that you have value, and it's your moral obligation to express that value to individuals that you could help with that value. Whether that's you're selling a product or whether you're selling a service, you've seen it work for others. You've seen others who are struggling, trying to make things work. Your solution could help them. Be that, so to speak, that helper, that savior, so to speak, to go and help them, and the superhero in their life to rescue them from that challenge. And if it's not a fit right now, no biggie, move on. There are a lot more other individuals out there or companies that you can help. I know you can find great success if you keep this mentality. Again, this is episode 134. You can go back to our show notes, get connected to Angel, get connected to the Sales Evangelizers, and also get information about connecting with me about the blog. I would love for you to have great success. Most importantly, I want you to go out and do big things.